So when David and I were talking about this, he said, I want you to do this talk on how to be an authority on anything. This was a great idea. This is exciting for me to talk about. I'm in education. It's a great space. I have a lot of opinions on this. The problem is that I'm actually not an expert on anything. Oops. I studied advertising in the College of Journalism, and I did that for 3 reasons. One, I like to write. This has been something that I've always enjoyed doing. I remember my 5th grade class, I had Mrs. Ayers, and she would make us write a short story once a day, and she would give us parameters. And at the end of the week, we would be able to tell this story orally to our class. We'd get up and we'd tell it, and I don't remember the specific story. I do remember Purple People Eater was in the title of it, and I remember being so excited to share this, and then afterwards just turning and looking at Miss Ayers, and she was just smiling, and she said, you should think about creative writing when you get older, and that was kind of the first time that it dawned that maybe I could actually write for a living. And then number 2 is journalism is incredibly interdisciplinary. I enjoyed the fact that it was writing skills, but there's also observation skills and problem-solving skills that were all wrapped into what went into journalism. But also, when you are talking to diverse subjects, there's interdisciplinary in that. You're essentially talking to different fields, and with different subjects come different complex problems. So I enjoyed that aspect. But number 3, and I think really the most important, is that I'm just incredibly a curious person. Now, my mom had a different word for that. She called me nosy, but I like to think of it as curious. In fact, I still remember being in 4th grade, and the greatest movie of all time came out to me at the time. This is what I thought was the greatest movie at the time. It was Harriet the Spy. It was the first original movie that Nickelodeon had come out with, and I loved it. I love this idea of just walking around with a notepad and writing anything. So that's what I did. Was I would walk around my neighborhood with this red notebook, and I'd just go up to a car, and I would say abandoned Monopoly board, empty 20-ounce bottle of Coke, and I enjoyed doing this. This curiosity really got ignited when I got to college. I felt for the first time in my life that I was being challenged, and not just intellectually, but physically and spiritually. And I liked the debates that were happening on campus. I liked the free lectures. I would attend any free lecture I could. In fact, while I was at OU, I saw George H.W. Bush, Al Gore, Colin Powell, Bill Clinton, all giving these free talks. And I loved being able just to listen from incredibly diverse leadership and get all these different perspectives on how our nation was going. But I also just loved being in a social learning community. It felt for the first time that I had people around me that were interested in criticizing what was going on and interested in asking questions and not afraid to do so. But then graduation happens, and if you were into zombie movies, you should go to a commencement at OU. It's very similar. You have 1,000 people walk in, very straight-faced, deer in headlights look, and they really have no idea what they're doing next. And I say that as a University of Oklahoma employee. It's exciting and terrifying to watch at the same time. And that was me. I graduated in the spring of 2009, coming out of the fall of the economy in 2008. And so there was not a lot left on the plate for these former journalism majors. And so I did what any good student would do. I took the first job that came to me, and that was I was the account executive for Baby Booty socks, these high-end socks. And my job was to fill the orders to Saks Fifth Avenue, and they wanted to buy these overpriced socks. I made sure they got the socks, from the manufacturers in China. And that was it, And at the time, it felt, I was like, man, my dreams have been crushed. I don't I don't have the job of, my dreams. I'm not getting paid a lot, which I feel like those can sort of weigh out each other from time to time. I don't love my job, but I get paid a lot, or, I don't get paid a lot, but I love what I do. Neither of those were hitting, but most importantly, I wasn't really being pushed in what I was doing. I wasn't being challenged. And so I went on a mission to fulfill that void. I felt like that was one that I could control. I could control what was being input here. And so I just started searching for resources that I could find. How am I going to fill that gap of what I was getting with all these, these free lectures? Unfortunately, Colin Powell has no interest in coming to, my cubbyhole at the sock manufacturing company. So I'm going to be walking through today my journey through finding this content and through finding educational resources myself and where it is taken me. And I'm going to kind of walk up this pyramid. To kind of show you how I did that. So immediately what I wanted to do was just find content. I just wanted to find anything that I could consume. And I'm not going to say anything here that's incredibly revolutionary. These are all things you know, but this is where I went. I went to TED Talks. I love the interdisciplinary of TED Talks. I love the fact that they were digestible. All TED Talks are 18 minutes or less, so that was something that I could get in during lunch. I liked just listening to random podcasts here and there that I had subscribed to, and I decided to read blogs. But what you start to understand the more you start to consume content is you're constantly leaving that content because it's not incredibly well organized. It's just pieces of work, and that is not an educational experience, just to kind of go from one to the other. So I started looking at how could this be organized? How is this organized content? And so what I was originally having with TED Talks and podcasts became iTunes U, and what was just blogs became, I started curating these RSS feeds of multiple blogs that were of similar subjects, so I could get a more well-rounded approach to what I was trying to learn. In iTunes U, so this is essentially what the iTunes U page for TED looks like. So TED's got thousands of talks on there. It's hard to figure out what exactly are all the talks on sustainable consumption. Okay, well now I can subscribe specifically to that kind of curated list of TED Talks there. If I want to do media and journalism, I can get all those in one easy spot. And so now we're getting closer to an educational experience. We're getting able to kind of go through a beginning, middle, and end to a theme. And similarly, iTunes U was probably one of the first places that multiple universities really started putting up content. So we have, there's a lot of great classes on there from Open Yale, from Stanford and MIT as well. They've kind of pioneered being able to put this content on here, all of which is for free and usually available as audio or video form. And so here's what I've talked about so far is my consumption of content. What I haven't talked about yet is production of content. And this is how you can actually do both at the same time. So this is my RSS feed. I used to use Google Reader, and now I use Feedly since Google Reader has now passed. And I start to curate things based on my interest. Well, I started doing this when my first job back at the university, I was a graduate fellow. I literally just worked a front desk, and it was for the economic development department of the university, OU Economic Development. And I knew nothing about economic development, and so I was like, well, I'll put together a bunch of blogs, and I'll read everything I could. So I curated, here's what's going on in higher education in Oklahoma. Here's what's going on in higher education across the nation. Here's what's happening in tech transfer offices across the nation. Here's what economic development looks like in Oklahoma. Here's what innovation looks like in Oklahoma. And eventually, I had about 500 blogs that I would parse through daily. To just kind of get a feeling for what should I know to be successful in my department. Well, very quickly, I got the idea of this information is awesome for me. This would be very neat to be able to put out to the rest of the university, if anything, at least my department. And so I don't know if you guys have ever heard of If This, Then That, ifttt.com. I think it's phonetically pronounced IFT. But you can essentially connect specific channels to other channels. So you can say, if I post on Instagram, put it in my Dropbox, or if I like a picture, put it in my Dropbox, or what I put was, if I star an article, put it in Delicious. And what Delicious is just a page that will put your links together. So I'd start an article, and it'd put it on this page where everyone could go there, and they could see all the links that I was liking. That was really cool, but that requires someone to go to a page daily to see these new links that I had posted up there, and I wasn't really, kind of really pushing that content out there. So I came up with a better idea, which was, okay, this Delicious creates an RSS feed, and MailChimp can actually put together a newsletter literally just from these RSS links. And so I set up a newsletter that said, anytime that, at the beginning of the day, take all the posts that I have made from the previous day, and put it in a newsletter, and then just send it to my department, which is about 30 or 35 people. And so all of a sudden, they would get this nice little curated list of here's the 10 articles that Adam had starred on Feedly, and produce this newsletter itself. Now, this literally took me, this wasn't, if you ever try to put together a newsletter where you're copying over headlines and copying over bodies and copying over links, this wasn't happening. I literally just start an article, and then at 6 a.m. the next morning, they would get all the articles I starred, which is really fun. But this did two things for my department. One, it kept us incredibly engaged in what was going on in Oklahoma and nationally, but it also put our brand at the top of their email. So literally the first thing they saw when they sat down each day was our logo, no matter where they were. And so it would put you in this frame of mind of what you need to be doing, but it also kind of started to get this new brand out here. Really no one actually knew what the economic development department did, so this was a good way of doing it itself. So this is actually an example of starting to produce this organized content. And that's good. Content's great, but as I mentioned before, even once you put it together, it's not a full educational experience. So the next level of what we look at in education is assessment, and being able to figure out how well you recall that information itself. So if you want a money course, you want to make sure that they're not only consuming, but they're able to recall that information later. So I want you I'm a history buff, so I like to put things in this term. I want you to think way, way back to the year is 2011. And so what's going on in 2011? Charlie Sheen, #winning. We had just killed Osama bin Laden, and Beyonce's pregnant. There's this course that's about to happen. And the guy's name is Sebastian Thrun, and he works in the College of Engineering at Stanford. And he had actually just finished giving a TED Talk at TED 2011, and he was watching a talk from a man named Salman Khan, who runs a company called Khan Academy that produces these tutorials for how to go through math and science equations, and was talking about how he basically made these equations for his niece, and was able to, and they've now been viewed by hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people on here. And Sebastian's, he had actually just finished a talk on how he had produced this automated car. So was the first guy to do it. He won this prize where this automated car had literally drove itself across the desert. And so he's now actually ahead of Google X Lab. And so he's thinking, well, I'm teaching a class this fall at Stanford called Intro to Artificial Intelligence. And so he says, how about we make this open? How about put a camera in the back of the class? We'll put the assessments online. We'll put some content online to where you could actually, kind of peer into the 200 students that I have in here, and you can go along this class together. And so he wants to kind of do a proof of concept. He sends out an email to people that are also in the field of artificial intelligence. So that's very niche, right? I mean, clearly people who have studied it for the last 30 years would be interested in the Intro to Artificial Intelligence course. So he sends this email out to this organization, and he gets about 8,000 replies saying, yeah, if you do that, I'd love to take that class. And he's like, wow, this is incredible. I have 200 in-class students. All of a sudden, I have 8,000 students who are actually interested in doing this online. This seems pretty cool. And right there, you think if we stop, that'd be a great success story. 8,000 students are now getting a Stanford education course. So he kind of keeps pinging these people around. He opens up enrollment. The New York Times decides to write an article about it. It hits the front page of the New York Times. 58,000 people are now enrolled in this Intro to Artificial Intelligence course on here. Again, this is insane numbers. That's obviously more people than he'd ever be able to teach if he taught for the next 100 years. So Scientific American comes out with post, and I want to go back. This is a day later, right? So this is August 15th that this New York Times article comes out. August 16th, Scientific American writes an article. 70,000 people are signed up for this class. On the 23rd, Mindshift, which is an NPR blog about education, puts out it. 120,000 people have now decided they are going to go through this course as well, with everyone on there. So October 10, we have the start of class. And how many people are enrolled? We have over 160,000 people are now going to go over this. So we've gone from 200 in-classroom students to 160 people that are going to simultaneously go through this course at Stanford. So where does this lead? This seems incredible. This, to be honest, shook up higher education where I work. Everyone was incredibly interested in how they get in on this game. He left Stanford and decided he was going to, he had more people he could serve if he just left and did these kind of open courses. So he did leave. He started a company called Udacity. But here's the two big ones that are out there. This is over 100 universities that have, I think these numbers are probably a little off now, because I think we're looking at 600 to 800 courses that any of you can take online that are happening at real universities for free. And I joke about the 2011, being way back there to kind of put in perspective how quickly this has happened. This is something that's incredibly new and wasn't available to anyone that far off. And as you can see, over 5 million people through those two platforms are actually already engaging and taking these courses as well. So I just put a list up here, again, just to throw numbers at people, to kind of see what is available to you now that wasn't available 3 years ago. There's 25 courses from Stanford, including machine learning, including mathematical thinking, logic, computer security, algorithms, automata. There's 17 Harvard courses, including Intro to Computer Science, Early Christianity, Justice, which is a very famous course by Michael Sandel, who every Harvard undergrad loves to go through. And then there's 18 MIT courses as well that are all in here. And I say those because those names are flashy, but I want to also say that and it's not just these top-tier universities. It's over 100 that are really getting in the game together. So, and that's great. And I think those are all incredibly educational experiences. I've got so much out of being able to take those courses myself and learn across all these different spectrums, and it's really kind of fulfilled what I've always been interested in. But I want to add, kind of the top to our pyramid that these really, really best happen when we are in communities, and it's why education and public education and higher ed has worked well for so long, is because we are in these small communities that are learning together. So what's that mean? It means that everything we learn takes place in this social context. And so if we are able to fulfill the social context with all this content and all this rigorous assessment, then we have a really powerful platform. This is a great learning theory by a Russian psychologist whose name I can't pronounce, but it essentially says that knowledge is constructed in the midst of our interactions with others, and I totally believe that's true. That's why I'm passionate about working in higher education. That's why I'm passionate about events like this. I curate TEDxOU, an independently organized TED event at the University of Oklahoma. And while I love this, I love Beth, I love the story that she got to share with the people in the audience, I'm much more interested in what happens here. Really, what I see excitement happen is the ideas that are percolating within the audience itself. And I'm a testament to what has happened in that audience. After TEDxOU, I had someone come up to me and said, you know what, I run this Institute for Constitutional History. I love these TED Talks. Thank you for introducing me. I hadn't watched a single one before I heard about TEDxOU. I've now watched over 100, and I think we can do this similar format to bring constitutional history to the world. Let's do these short kind of TED Talk style talks and put them online. I said, okay, I can build an adequate website. If you want to fund some videos, let's do it. And so this idea was pitched to me in August. It launched October 1st, 2012. It's now got over 80 free talks on freedom, citizenship, and U.S. history. We've got over 85,000 video views online, and over 50,000 that are considered students on iTunes U have actually signed up for our courses. And in fact, one of our courses is called The Story of Freedom in America by Dr. J. Rufus Fears, beloved professor at the university. And we decided we'd do a course for him. Well, he passed away completely out of nowhere 2 weeks after we finished filming. And so it's one of those where you kind of understand a little bit more of what your destiny is, being able to be a part of that production. 35,000 students have been able to, that's not downloads, that's just people who have signed up to take his course through iTunes U after he has passed, I had another attendee of TEDxOU say, okay, I saw what Sebastian did at Stanford. I'm not quite sure if that's right for higher education. I think the best way for me to learn is to find out. So I want to open up my class, which is Intro to Management. It's from the College of Business. I want to put that online. And so I said, okay, again, I can build an adequate website. Give me content. We'll put it up on there. And so we launched this as a kind of a short summer course last summer. And we had 82,000 page views. And this is speaking to David's comment about visit duration. They spent over 4 minutes each time that they were on here. So incredible numbers that we saw. We had over 2,000 students actually sign up to take this course that actually wasn't promoted by the university because they didn't like this idea. So that was just kind of us. What's fun about this course was the textbook was actually a graphic novel. And so that this was really appealing to a broader audience. And it ended up being talked about on the main stage at New York Comic Con, and he's since been interviewed on MSNBC, talk about how people can learn through this graphic novel concept, all because we decided to put his course content online in a way that people could go through it. By the way, this is just a WordPress theme. Anyone can take and make a course like this. I did it overnight with like a 6-pack of Fat Tire, so if I can do it, you can too. So what have I been working on recently? Well, as of June, because of my ability to build adequate websites, they decided I would be the director of digital courses, And so there's this new space, we don't know much about it, you seem to know a little bit, go do it. And so we've actually, we've built an entire learning, we call it a learning community. And because it builds in social features above just the actual content and assessment, it's built like a social platform. So it's got chat, it's able to share all your notes with whoever you want, kind of Google Plus style. You're able to send interactive whiteboards back and forth, all within the platform. So instead of having to go to YouTube for lectures and go to Google Docs to write something together, and download a PDF of all your course content, it's all on the platform itself. And this literally just launched Monday publicly. We've been running some beta courses. Thanks. So you can take 14 OU courses starting in the spring. Anyone can. It's open enrollment. Now, OU students will take these for credit, but this will be open to anyone. And we've really harped on high quality video content. There's no more camera in the back of the classroom. We've gone so much farther beyond that within the last 2 years, and this is very, very high quality content. Another funny story. The guy who helped me build this platform was a TEDxOU speaker my first year. And the guy who did all my videos was the TEDxOU video team that I kind of put together just for TEDx. So one conference can do a lot, is essentially where I want to get. But beyond that, learning is now not just for college-age students. And I think a lot of us are here because we consider ourselves lifelong learners. And I want you to know that there's more ways to fulfill that than there ever has been before. Number 2, it's less specialized. I've struggled with the fact that I'm not an expert, especially working in higher education. I've felt the need to get a master's or a PhD all the time. The fact is, I can't commit to it because I don't want to specialize in anything. I want to learn everything, and I want to learn a little bit of everything. You can now do that more happen for it, and you can do that with anyone everywhere. But here's what's really cool. If I've showed you that all this content exists out there, and the only thing that you need is a community, guess what we've put together today? We've got that. And so what I would say my hope my dream for Confluence is that we understand that we don't need as many more experts, but we do need a lot more of influencers. And you guys are that. And so imagine being able to form around this content. Imagine being able to form these learning communities with people that are similar to you, and you're able to share interests. I think that there's something to be said for wanting to not just be educated, but for wanting to educate. And I think that's what we're here to do. So if I had a dream, it was that out of this, you were able to pair up and figure out that we have all this content, we can go through this together. This doesn't have to be a one-day event, but this could be a true learning community. So thank you very much.